Hey everyone, welcome back. This is episode 3 and the topic is starting investing. I get people all the time asking me how to get started and all this, and usually the common question is where are you finding these houses? So I've got to look for houses is all the way down here on this list that leads to actually buying a house. So I want to go over these things. I'm going to try not to draw this video up. I already draw this video out. I already tried filming it and it went over 30 minutes, so I have to redo it. That's way too long. Jumping right in, goals. You need to think about what your short-term goals are and your long-term goals, because if you spend ton of money on long-term investing, that may make your short-term goals not possible. Or if you focus only on your short-term goals, that may kill your long-term goals down the road. So you're going to have to find a medium that works for both things. For me, I do a combination of stuff. I've got my real estate investing where I'm buying houses. So the passive income that I get off of monthly from rent, that is what takes care of all my kind of immediate needs. But then having those assets, the houses themselves, appreciate in value down the road. They could be sold down the road. That could take care of retirement. Or they could just continue to make rent down the road. The other thing that's important to me thinking about the longer term stuff is if I become disabled or if I die and I've got a decent life insurance policy, but that's only going to last but so long. And this is sort of like me self-insuring with life insurance. It's going to make money now, but it'll make money later, and it'll provide an income to my family if I meet my demise. So I think that's it. And the importance of that is it's going to influence pretty much everything you do, kind of the direction you go in. Number 2 is spending habits. Is it worth it? That's, I think, the key thing to ask yourself when you're buying stuff and spending money. I don't need to explain to probably the people who are watching this video how much dumb spending goes around. And I'm someone who sells stuff too, and I see it. People buying tables from me that just really shouldn't be buying them. They're buying it strictly as a novelty. They've seen something on HGTV and they think a farm table in their house would be cute. And then they spend $1,000 on a table when they could have thousands of dollars worth of credit card debt that they could have applied that money to. And so people will spend money on all these different liabilities, cars, motorcycles, boats, all that type of stuff. And they spend that money, and then those things continue to drain them of money because of either the activities they're participating in or the sort of costs to maintain that lifestyle. So all of this is pretty standard stuff you're going to hear when you hear people rambling about financial stuff. The big thing that people say is, that cup of Starbucks every day. You're not going to get rich not buying a cup of coffee, but just that general mindset of not so much being a cheap miser, but just knowing, do I want to burn up all my hard-earned money on this stuff, or do I want to apply it to something, to an investment, and then, benefit from that from here on. So I think that probably pretty much takes care of spending habits. The next thing I've kind of squeezed in there, I missed it the first time, is a security fund. At some point you just need to put together some sort of a fund in case things don't go right. This is a pretty standard in finances in my opinion, and that amount is going to vary. And it's going to depend on your lifestyle. For me, I don't owe anything on this house that I live in, so I don't have to worry about a mortgage payment on this house. I've got other rental properties that pay for all of their taxes and everything. So I have my cost of living, just my own personal cost of living is really not that high. I do have a lot of expenses per month from doing all the stuff that I do, but most everything is individually taking care of its own costs. So a person like me may not have to have as big a security fund as a fellow who has a bunch of kids in college. He's got a herd of dogs, a bunch of cats, taking care of his mother, and I'm just saying all this different stuff. That guy may need to have $50,000, $100,000 saved up. That may be exaggerating, but I think it is good to have an amount of money that you could live off of for a little bit if something happened, if you were fired, if you were injured, whatever it is. Basically, if your income stopped coming in to you for any reason, just to be able to have those bare essentials, a place to stay, something to eat, that kind of stuff. And I also think, going back to spending habits, if you always have everything just so perfect, you always got the newest stuff, the best stuff, and you just kind of condition yourself to having everything be exactly how you need it, you're going to handle leaner times so much harder. And there's so many people that have been on top, and then something happens and it knocks them down, and it's rougher for them to handle that because they've just slowly been everything's been going up and up and up for them, and then if it's just all of a sudden they're down, they're not going to be able to handle that. If I lost everything I have and I still had my family, and I mean, it'd be kind of hard for me to lose this house here, it just wouldn't be that big of a deal for me to start over because I'm not some person. I'm not going to give a story like some of these people. Seems like every real estate person grew up in the hood and all that kind of stuff. They talk about that kind of stuff. I don't have a sap story. I had a nice family and they've supported me. I don't come from a big money family, but I grew up in a nice situation. And that is something that I think is a great thing because it's made me see the value in that and know the importance of my own personal family and knowing what I got out of it and hoping that I can provide that for my family. And it's the reason I do all this stuff. When I started doing all this stuff, I didn't have a family yet, but it's become my reason for doing this stuff. It's the reason that I'm thinking about improving it and all that. So somehow that was related to a security fund. Make sure you have some money in place in case something goes wrong. Debt. You need to stop it, and then you need to pay it off. When I say stop, if you're using credit cards to buy a bunch of dumb stuff and you're not immediately paying it off, and it doesn't have something to do with building credit, if you're spending money that you just simply don't have, you really need to try to calm that down if it's a novelty things going on. And then just start paying the debt off. And if you want to kind of look into any kind of debt stuff, Dave Ramsey is a good person for that. Most of you are probably familiar with him. He calls it the debt snowball. Basically, line them all up from biggest to smallest. Start with the smallest and start working them all off. Paying the minimums on everything, but really attacking them one at a time. And I think the whole concept is just that achievement. I think a lot of this stuff, it sounds like something a child would do, instead of like really looking at it all and figuring it out yourself just to go smallest to biggest because it makes you feel good. But I think a lot of the people who do get themselves in debt almost have been childish in a lot of situations. So they've got to kind of start to build up that mental strength, and they may have to do little tricks to themselves to get through stuff. So just be really cautious with debt. If you don't need probably the car that you have if you're the person that knows you have the car that you shouldn't have. You don't need to finance every little thing. Sometimes financing can be a decent idea, but most of the time it's just somebody buying something they simply can't afford and shouldn't buy. Budgeting. Got a question mark behind that one. And the reason I have a question mark is because I don't do specific budgets. Basically, I just have kind of a bare bones monthly cost of living, and it is what it is. And usually any spending that I do, I just don't lose control of stuff. And so even if I budgeted, the amount that I may control myself and not spend would just be so negligible. And it just doesn't meet my personality to really have a budget. I probably couldn't even come up with one. I'm just not super organized. My wife could do it, but it's just not my thing. We basically just pay our bare minimums. Neither one of us spends a lot of excess money. I probably spend the most money that's unrelated to houses and things like that. But usually it has something to do with buying the lens that's on this camera, which helps this kind of stuff. Buying a tool that helps me with making my table. So it's still all money stuff, even when it's something I want to buy for fun. But if you're in a situation where you just know that you need the discipline of having a budget, go ahead and do it. And it might just be good for you to do it for a while, just to see what you're actually spending your money on. Me and my wife did one time go through all of our costs, and it was before I bought the Brick Ranch house, if you follow my Homemade Home channel, because I got a mortgage when I bought that house. It goes against everything I kind of think, but it was its own situation. You can go watch those videos if you want to hear more about that. But I really had to take a hard look at the financial side of this and just decide if it was even possible. And would it be a good idea? Would it put a strain on things? Because the rent covers the payment. But what if something happened and, I don't know, something crazy happened and I couldn't rent that house anymore? All of a sudden I've got to take on that payment. So I had to know if I could actually handle that. And that was part of the decision. If I had to actually pay this myself, would it be possible? So budgets can help with things like that. Self-evaluation. this is getting closer to actually making your purchase. So a self-evaluation, the point of me mentioning that is that you need to know yourself. And it's not just know your own personality and yourself, but sort of your overall situation. What are all the variables that you deal with? Do you have a family? Sort of like what I said earlier. If it was even, I filmed this video a couple times, so I'm losing track of what I said. Are you taking care of someone with the health issues? Do you have kids in school? All that type of stuff. So all those, like, I don't know what you call those, like the physical variables, things that actually exist. Then think about yourself. I've had people ask me advice that I know personally. So a lot of things, like, I base off my YouTube stuff, and then I base off like real life stuff. And in my real life stuff, I've had people ask me advice on things, and I feel like scared to tell them the advice because I'm telling it from my point of view, and then I'll know this person good, and I'll know that it's a bad idea for them to do what they're doing. And that's a hard thing to tell somebody that, but normally you can kind of like lead somebody enough to where they can either see it or whether they can kind of fix the situation to fit them better. Meaning if you're a person who can't follow through with stuff, you don't buy something that's going to take a year to renovate. It's going to end up sitting there forever. It's just not going to get done. You may find that you need to buy something that doesn't require renovation or just requires stuff that you can afford to pay other people to do. But if you follow my $12,000 house with a total gut job, you have to know yourself before you enter into something like that. I can follow through with stuff really good. Even if it's going to take me a long time, I know I stick to it, and eventually I will get it done. So it doesn't intimidate me to take on a huge project because I know I'll eventually do it. So just know yourself. Are you going to get mixed up in something that you can't handle? If so, you want to avoid that. Or maybe make the improvements in yourself before you actually take that on. So that is the knowing yourself. And I think, the self-evaluation, like I said, just be realistic about it. And one of the best things to do, when people ask me my advice through emails and I don't know you, it's just because of my videos, I give them all my advice based on the information they give me, and then I end it with, basically I say, now go talk to someone you know. Go talk to somebody who knows you best and tell them what it is you want to do, what your plans are. You can share with them what we've talked about in this email, but get their opinion based on the fact that they know you, because there's a lot of people, they seem completely normal, but then they've got, I don't want to say a screw loose, but they've got something in them that's hard to kind of tell, that only someone that really knows them really well can do. So it's good to talk with somebody and make sure that, just to get that second opinion about what you're doing. So at this point, it's like you're kind of ready to do something. And what I suggest first is the traditional investing before you buy a house. A 401k, if your job offers it, I highly recommend doing something like that. I don't have that option, but there are different types of 401ks. I think there's one for like self-employed people. And then there's Roth IRA. So you can have a 401k, then you can also have a Roth IRA or a traditional IRA. A Roth IRA is money that's you've already paid taxes on. You contribute that. Traditional IRA is pre-tax, so you can take your gross income and tuck it right in there. So basically your income, including the taxes that you would pay, go into it, and it just starts, goes into a mutual fund of some sort, basically. And then the value of it rises. You can get interest off of it, reinvest the interest, and then down the road you pay the taxes. With a Roth IRA, money goes in it, taxed already, and then down the road when you start using that money, you don't pay taxes on it. So I like that because you don't know what's going to happen in the future. But I think when people kind of do the comparisons, really they work out about the same, but I like kind of just getting it over with now. It just makes more sense to me, and I think it's becoming more and more recommended. My etc. is just, there's other types of investing for long-term stuff. There's like self-employment type 401ks and all kinds of other things. And again, that's something, maybe talk to somebody that you know personally knows more about that, or an investment advisor. I just started my own. It was a Vanguard, and I got the Vanguard 500. So just a normal mutual fund. It's an index fund, so it's really low fees. That's what I would suggest. A lot of mutual funds have really high cost to them, and I just think index funds are simple. The Vanguard 500 is basically, mimics all the biggest companies in the country basically. So it's like you're almost betting on the U.S. economy. And forgive me if I'm saying getting some of this stuff wrong. You don't need to be an expert when you kind of pick this basic stuff. I mean, for me, it's Vanguard, big, huge company. It's an index fund. It's got low fees, and it's the Vanguard 500. So I think it's a good one. And again, this is just one of the things that you're doing. So this is just get this going, get it autopiloting. If you got a Roth IRA, try to max it out. It's about $5,500. 401k, I think you can get about 18 grand in. Then your companies will normally match it. So if you can't get that much in, if you can't afford that, I understand. But do as much as possible. And if you need to get excited about it, go and do one of these investing calculators and look what it will roughly be by the time you're whatever age you're going to retire. And it is quite impressive. It's going to be one of those things you're going to say, I wish I would have started it earlier. I do it. I max it out. I just do it religiously, consistently, and I always will as long as I can afford to do it. Now we're starting to save some money. You've got everything is taken care of. Now you're moving into buying a house territory. Start saving money and save as much as possible. Reason I say save as much as possible because you could buy the house, renovate the house, and have some extra money sitting around if stuff pops up. But by the time the right thing pops up, you might just be able to have enough just to buy it. But you can never have too much money. So people ask me all the time, how much money should I save? Just save as much as you can and just keep on doing it after that. Just see if you can accumulate some money, and that can sort of all be part of your security fund potentially. But your security fund and your money that you're going to do an investing with, really that's a separate thing. But if you make more than you need, you can throw that up in there or just have some extra money for more stuff. Now, when it comes to looking for a deal, this is going to vary depending on where you're at, how much you pay. But my main point that I think is my main tip, is for people to be patient. Don't rush this. Find the right thing for you. Don't buy something just because it's cheap. My first house was the wrong house to buy. I learned a lot, but it was not the right house to buy. The second house I bought, that one just kind of came to me basically. It was just the right situation, and it just sort of popped up. And I wish that the second house I bought was the first house I bought. For looking for houses, if you're looking for really cheap houses, I did my ebook. It's probably the first link in the description below. It's $4.99 sold on Amazon or as a PDF off my website. I swear to you that it will be very helpful if you don't know anything, or if you just know a little bit, it might be some extra tips in there, or if you just want to buy it to read it for fun. Basically, it is the story of how I bought the majority of my houses, and then kind of what I learned off of it, and then like other tips that I've learned along the way. And the sources where I'm getting stuff and the information that you can access through using some of this stuff is very powerful. I have people all the time telling me, you can only buy a house for no less than X amount. Only this amount where I live and up. People in my town tell me all the time, you can't buy anything for less than $75,000 or $100,000. I buy houses. The cheapest one was $5,000 totally. It was about $6,000 all in. Bought another one for $2,000, but then there were closing costs. The average house that I buy is about $10,000. So again, the numbers may be different, where you live. My $10,000 may be higher where you're at. So the super cheap stuff where you at could be 20 or maybe 50. I don't know. Some people it may be 100, but you've also got more profit probably coming at you if you can, get past that barrier of entry. But just look for your deal. Try to be creative. Talk with people. Be patient. Let people know what it is you're doing. If you're a more kind of normal person, you want to go about things more traditionally, you can work with a real estate agent. Tell them you're looking for an investment property, and that may be a better route, just to spend more money, get something going right off the bat, instead of putting yourself through some huge hunt. Because the longer it takes you to find something, the longer it takes you to buy it, and the longer it takes you to get it ready and get it rented. So sometimes saving money can be very expensive if you don't go about it the right way. You're going to buy it, you're going to improve it, then you're going to profit from it. When you buy a house, I suggest just using a real estate attorney. Let them take care of it. Don't buy anything that's too fishy. Make sure you can get title insurance on it. I think it's always best to buy something that can be improved, because if it can't be improved, you probably just paid the most amount of money that it sort of is worth, unless it's some sort of weird situation. But if you can make improvements, you're gonna it's just going to be worth more. And even if you're renting it, well, it may rent for more, but it's just going to be worth more down the road as a potential item to sell. And then with profiting on it, most of this is going to be renting, but you may be buying stuff and selling it. So that would be more short-term investing. I focus right now on buying stuff to rent. But if the right situation popped up and somebody offered me enough money for some of my houses, I would definitely consider selling them. I don't know if I would do it, because I really do feel like a lot of the houses that I've purchased are going to be worth a lot more down the road, and I can run them all along. And then, last thing I advise is to reinvest your money. A lot of people, that's kind of a tricky thing to do. You think you've done all this, and you're going to replace your paycheck with passive income, and then you can just buy your groceries and pay your bills with this rent money. But if you can roll that money back in, you are really doing it now. If you can take all that rent money and have this house buy another house, and then have those houses buy another house, and then you got 3 houses buy another house, and then eventually you've got 4 houses buying 2 other houses, and then eventually gets to that point where people just have so much money sitting around they have to do something with it, because it's paying their bills, it's paying all their overhead, it's making a bunch of money, and it just gets rolled right back into investments. So that is my advice. I don't know what else I can add to that. I hope I didn't leave too much out, and that's only my take on things. I took a while today and kind of thought about all this stuff, but I did miss this and had to add it in, security fund, so I may be missing something else. But that's just something to kind of think about. Strictly only my take. I hope people kind of have fun in the comments below and leave sort of their experiences or maybe their questions, and then I can fill in the blanks if I left anything out. If you didn't see that first video, episode 2, go back and check that out. That's a description of how I went about my whole first real estate deal. I learned a lot. It was fun at the time. It was rough at the time. It was all kinds of things. But it is what it is. I don't regret it. I've now sold that house. So in the end, it really wasn't all that bad. It just required a lot of time. And I could have done better. But you can always probably do better. I think that's pretty much it. Check the descriptions below. I'm going to put different things, different links to stuff down there, different information. I normally type some different things. And then I usually try to pin a comment that I think seems important that someone asks, and normally that comment usually gets the most responses from other people. But that's pretty much it. I do hope this is at least slightly entertaining. I would like some feedback on these videos. Feel free to leave it below with any other comments you have. Thanks for watching.